So what do you call yourself? Welcome to the LaTangela Show. Hey.
Hey, what can I do for you this fine day?
This is your destiny. Hot, hot, hot.
Right now.
Welcome to the LaTangela Show. Come on in and enjoy yourself.
Right now.
We gon' party like no one else. Welcome to the LaTangela Show.
Good morning, sunshine. How are you?
I'm great. What about you?
Holding on yet holding on. If I complained, who would listen for long?
It wouldn't do no help.
Exactly. You're looking gorgeous, and thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I know that things have been super busy for you. And sometimes you have those brief encounters that really spark not just a line of communication, but relationships that nurture and that can be an educational tool and really serve the purpose, right? Um,
Right.
Coming up with a convo on aisle three, pretty much how this sparked off, right?
Yes.
Everyone has a story to tell, but when it comes to the level of transparency, everyone may not have that. And within a healing journey, transparency, not just for yourself, but for others, so they can see the turmoil, they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Tell me a little bit about being an advocate for domestic violence and what got you to that point of saying it's important and I really need to be vocal.
Well, I had a high profile case in Beaumont, Texas about 12 years ago. Where I was a victim of domestic violence. For a long time after I had got my case dismissed, I never spoke my side of the story. But sometimes God will put you in predicaments to where certain things trigger you that make you want to speak up for yourself. And so pretty much that's how I started advocating for domestic violence. It's kind of like I got tired of people trying to tell my side of my story. So I was like, nobody's going to save me. So I have to save myself. And God pushed me to the point where it's okay. It was like I had to be vocal. It was okay for me to finally speak my truth. Because sometimes as the survivors out of a situation of domestic violence, you feel like that your voice doesn't matter because you're not the one that ended up on the wrong side of the fence. But it's still important that people know your story, and it's important for people to know that they can tell their story, and that what y'all have going on is very relatable.
Right. And you said it was a high profile case 12 years ago. I know sometimes when it makes headlines, it's impossible for you to be able to run away from that. A lot of people may suffer in silence, but when it makes headline news and when your life is changed in what is apparently overnight to others, but it was an ongoing situation for you that you were struggling through. I know that you recently released the book, Guilty of Wanting to Be Loved, the Paige Parkerson story, part one. Now,
Yes.
how did you know that you were actually in a situation with domestic violence? What were some of those signs?
Well, it started off with him seeing him abuse his siblings in certain ways. So we kind of just brush it off, which what we call today is the red flags. We kind of just brush them off, and we don't really see the depth to a situation until you're on the other hand of it. So it's like I used to see red flags with him, the way he would fight with his siblings or fight with his cousins. It started off then, but then it started with him. See, I don't know about everybody else, but normally when I talk to a domestic violence victim, their abuse go in kind of like the same phases as mine did. So first, it started off with choking, and then it became to the point where now it's balled up fists and busted lips and black eyes and raw necks. So I knew I feel like when I accepted him choking me, when I started making excuses, that's when I kind of knew, that I was being abused.
How long were you in this relationship?
7 years.
How did you meet this person? Like, were you family friends? Were you neighbors?
Yes.
I mean, did it
Yes.
start off as a we are cool, and then all of a sudden there was a switch that
Yes.
was flipped?
It was we had a mutual family friend, and his grandmother was friends with my aunt, and we kind of just hung around each other all the time. And I was young, I was 13, so he was my first love, women, we know what that means. He was my first. And so, looking back on it, I had to go back inside my history growing up to understand why did I even deal with domestic violence. So my mother passed away at 28 from cirrhosis of the liver. And then
Oh,
my
no.
dad went to the penitentiary when I was 7, around the same time my mother died.
Mhm.
And so the first time a man showed me love, that's how I felt a man was supposed to love me. And so it was easy just to transition into this is how a man was supposed to love me. And so we were young and we met through a mutual family friend, and then it just kind of developed into that.
Right. And as you can tell, domestic violence is not something that's always loud. It's
No.
not something that will discriminate. So it doesn't have a face to it. And it's starting to gear younger and younger. Like you said, you were in a relationship at 13, and now with social media and hashtags and so much accessibility for teens and them to get a perception as of what they think relationships look like, or hashtag relationship goals, and
Yeah.
now we have more access into people's lives, and it's not any longer what happens in this house stays in this house,
Yes.
and the
But that's
world is
what
becoming
we were
more and
taught.
more desensitized.
Hmm. That's what we were taught growing up. And I just want to break that cycle. What I love about this new generation is they refuse to keep that what goes on in this house stays in this house, because we were raised to believe that that's how it went. But no, what goes on in this house, it needs to be talked about. It needs to be more, especially amongst our black community. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we need to be more talkative as parents. Like, this generation, we call it like soft parenting, but
Mhm.
that's important because we want our kids to have a safe space to come talk to us, right?
Right.
So I didn't have a safe space to come talk to my grandmother about what was really going on with me until it got out of control. And so that's why I started speaking too, because I wish at my age I had someone like me to talk to me and walk me through it. But I was raised where it was like I had to grow up fast. I didn't get to enjoy my childhood. And so now, seeing when I started telling my story 2 years ago, all the not just women though, because I want people to understand that too. Domestic violence is not just a gender, it's not a color, it's not a type. You could be physically abused, but as a man or a woman, you could be emotionally abused, psychologically abused. You can go to church and get spiritually abused. It's different forms of domestic violence, and it's like we're not educated enough on it. So I've recently started the journey to raise awareness to it, because like I told people, a lot of people don't know October is domestic violence awareness because it's overshadowed by breast cancer awareness. And although that is a very important subject, you also have Alzheimer's and lupus and breast
Yes.
cancer awareness and domestic violence all in one month. And I feel like that it needs to be broken up and separated, because these other three awarenesses take the background to breast cancer awareness, and people need to be more educated on all of them, because you never know when you're gonna run across anyone that has Alzheimer's or lupus or breast cancer awareness. You need to be educated deeper, and to put them all in one month is very disappointing, because people need to be more aware of people when they run into these type of awarenesses.
And, and even to just expound on that a little, not just having the conversations in 1 month.
Mm,
Those are the months where they're highlighted, but this is an ongoing conversation that should be held and normalized. So when you see your child starting to become more evasive towards their friends, they're isolated, the warning signs or the triggers, or even in
yes,
relationships, what is it that feels like an ouch instead of a growing pain? How did
right.
how did you get to the point, as we're flipping the pages of this book of Paige, right? Um, to knowing now that you're in this relationship, it was an ongoing thing. Like, what stopped you from leaving sooner? Because a lot of people don't talk about that part of it.
No, they don't. See, I feel like like I said prior, me not knowing how a man was supposed to love me was one thing that kept me there. But also the fact that his mom at the time, she had gave him away when he was younger, so their relationship was very strained. So it's me also being a woman that I don't want to leave him like his mama left him, or if, the common thing we do as women. If I stay, then he'll change, or if I stay down, then maybe he'll change for me. But we were both trauma bonded because we both had a rough life. You know, he was abandoned by his mom. I was abandoned by my dad. And we were just basically holding on to each other because of the trauma bond that we had formed. And so hurt people, as they say, you know, and I feel like him seeing his mom be abused by his dad, is all that he knew, generational curses, and me wanting that love from a man that I never experienced before is what kept me in it, and my
Mhm.
children, because I wanted them to have that mom and dad in the house together while we were raising them. You understand what I'm saying? And
What was the
so,
conversation like with your children while this was going on? Did you
oh
hide
my
it from
God.
them, or was it impossible to hide after a point?
At the time, my children were very small. They really didn't understand. They were 2 and 3. No, they were 3 months and 2 years old. And so they would see the abuse. I remember one time, my 2-year-old tried to stop him from hitting me one time. He used to just rub my black eyes. It's like your child know what's going on with you. You know, they used to see the black eyes, and they used to see the raw necks, and they used to see me crying. And at the time, I talked about this all in my book also. At the time, my only escape for me was alcohol. And I used to just drown myself in alcohol to try to numb myself from, facing reality, trying to cover up my scars with makeup and, that type of thing. And then at the time, I didn't have like a support system. So it's like when you're going through abuse, you try to hide everything from everybody. You know what I'm saying? Because like I tell people now, I understand when your heart and your mind at war, it's a tug of war. And even though your mind's telling you what you need to do, which is walk away, your heart is still keeping you in that situation. And so at the time, my kids was my heart, and I was determined to give them that perfect family
Even though it was a struggle for everyone.
for
Did you ever
everyone.
have any fear at any point that he would then turn around and start abusing the children? I mean, because we talked about emotional abuse, and this is a situation to where everybody in the house is going through turmoil, whether they know how to say it or not, they're feeling that. So, did you ever think that it would go from that emotional abuse in the household to physical abuse to everyone in the house?
I did think that, but it was like the way he was with them, I didn't think he would hurt them because he was a great father. He was great. I didn't see that in. I thought about it, but I didn't see that he would hurt his children. In that type of way. I watched him with his kids, and as a mom, all we want to do is protect our kids. So I guess at the time I was blinded by the way he treated them, and I never felt that he was gonna hurt them. But the thought did cross my mind a couple of times.
Right. Paige, you wrote this book, and I know it was harder than not to ink these chapters. How did you consider what parts were too transparent and which parts you should leave on the cutting room floor?
I'm gonna say this: this book was a journey because at first I wanted to hire a ghostwriter to do it for myself, but I had a talk with a woman that I did a podcast with in Las Vegas. Her name was Carmen, and she told me, she said, Paige, no, don't get nobody to write your book. She said, because you want it to be your voice. You don't want people to take your voice away from you. And she was like, I can tell you're very versatile. She was like, I can hear the street in you, I can hear the hood in you, but I can also hear the professionalism in you. She was like, don't let nobody take your voice away from you. She was like, write that book yourself. She was like, fire them people, get in there. She was like, you're gonna have to go through some real hurtful memories in your head. She was like, but you need the people to feel you. And so I fired the ghostwriter, and I got there, and I just started from the night he died. Because
Whoa, 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 whoa,
yes, I take it
whoa,
to it quick.
whoa. Wait a second. We went from firing the ghostwriter to the night he died.
Yes.
So, being that this is a high profile case, telling your story the night he died, what was the escape for you and the end of this relationship? How did that come about?
Um, the escape from the relationship in the end was me fighting for my life. Um, and then I tell people real quick. It just was a terrible fight gone wrong.
Mm.
And this book is different because I start from the middle, the end, and then I take you to the beginning. So you have to read one book to get to the next book. And I take you on a journey because most of this first book was written from my experience being incarcerated in Jefferson County.
Wait,
And
wait. You're taking this fast, and you were incarcerated
yes, ma'am.
as a result of this ending.
As a result of me fighting for my life and the way it ended, yes, ma'am, I was incarcerated.
Okay.
Talk about all
And,
of this.
and for how long?
The first time I stayed in, it was like maybe 2 months and a half, and then the second time I almost stayed a year.
And what were those charges, if you don't mind sharing?
I don't mind sharing because this is public information. Um, the first time I was charged with murder, and the second time it was like kind of like the family went and said I assaulted someone, and then they took me back to jail for that while I was fighting my murder case.
So ultimately, he lost his life. It was one bad fight that went wrong. Um,
Yes.
and being that you had to walk through that, was this another fight at home? Was this a fight in public? Well,
It
walk
was
me
in our
through it.
home. The night it happened. We was at home. We was in our home, and but like I said, I take you on a journey because I don't want to have a normal. It's not even a book. It is really like a sequel. So
Yeah.
I started it different because I want people to understand that this first book is like I really want to put my thoughts and my emotions and everything I felt that I couldn't explain at the time when I was fighting for my life.
Because,
I want,
Paige, in all fairness, even the media attempted to twist it as if
yeah,
you were just an angry woman behind a gift gone wrong.
and
So, under that cloud, and for you not telling your story, while you're reading the headlines, tell me your initial thought and the one that grabbed you the most. What when you know for a fact that your story and your truth is that you're fighting for your life. In your words, it's a fight that went wrong. Um, in all facts, someone ultimately lost their life. But you're looking at the headline. What is that headline reading when you see it?
the Mother's Day killer.
The
That's
Mother's Day killer.
that's what
Now,
they call me.
and where did they get that from? Like, out of all the things while you're reliving this, right? It's a fight gone wrong. You're in the house, you have your babies. The man you loved, he's not a stranger. This isn't a burglar. This isn't the first time an argument has happened. He lost his life. At one point, he was the love of your life. They call you the Mother's Day gift killer.
Yes, basically trying to spin a narrative that I didn't want a present that he bought me, so he had to die for it. Was basically what they was trying to, and that's why it went so high profile and it went so viral because people were really like, "Oh, she killed this man over flowers in the car." It was hurtful. It was hurtful. It was very hurtful.
I can't imagine.
It was very hurtful, but even more so, it's like imagine for 12 for 11 and a half years you never cleared your name, you never said nothing, people had all of this to say about you. You meet people, they like, oh, I know who you are, you're a murderer, you're a killer, and you're not saying nothing. You know, I bottled so much and tried to push so much in the back of my head for so long, and I was not free from the bondage of this situation until I started talking, until I started telling my side of the story. Because for a long time I was like, it's disrespectful for me to tell my side because I don't want to open wounds to his family. It's disrespectful for me to tell my side because I'm the one that survived. It's disrespectful for me to tell my side because I don't have a right to talk. You start you start you know really you start really feeling like your words don't matter.
Mhm.
And it's like until you start talking, I remember the first time I started telling my story. I'm sorry because I don't mean to get emotional, but every time, and I remember telling my story because somebody tried to tell it again. And it's like God know what he be doing, and it made me mad because it was the second time that month I had run across somebody trying to tell my story. And God was like, if you don't tell it, then they gonna tell it for you. I didn't give you this for you to just sit on it. You have to go help people. They are dependent. And it's like God like made me feel guilty for not telling my story because I knew I had to set people free, and it wouldn't be free unless I talked.
Right.
So I started telling my story. I didn't even rehearse it or nothing. I just started recording in my car, YouTube first video. I just started telling my story. It's just how I felt. The first video it went viral.
Yeah.
So it's like even like I said, it's so transparent because men even come to me and tell me how they looking at their wives or their girlfriends different because they listening to my story. And so the more I talk, the more I would cry, and it felt like I was just releasing.
Right. That's a lot of hurt. That's a lot to swallow. And people can be empathetic towards it, but we can't say that we understand. And then as you look at those beautiful babies of yours and knowing that a piece of them or a piece of him, and on Mother's Day of all days, you have to go back and relive what was indeed a horrific time. And for the world to be able to spin a narrative as if you weren't fighting for your life, but fighting over a gift because the flowers may not have been pretty enough, the card had the wrong name, whatever it may be. Like of all the things. And it shows you just how desensitized the world can be at times. While people are going through
Yes.
things, we don't understand, our words can either push you off the bridge or pull you off the levee. It's one or
And,
the other. You
and
know,
that's just where I was in life. And it's like, that's just where I was in life. But, I had to find my voice because it's like, it was times when I was going through that I wanted to commit suicide, and then it got even tougher for me because now I have to sit and tell my kids why they don't have a father. So, like I said, this is a journey. Like this went in so many different phases and levels. And when I wrote my book, I put my heart into it, and it's not just it's about my childhood. It's about different situations and scenarios that I know is relatable, not just to domestic violence people, just to people around the world. I came from nothing. And so the narrative of me being ungrateful for a present was hurtful because it would be the smallest things for me. And to this day, I love flowers. I love cards. I love like a walk in a park, a picnic at the park. I
right,
came from nothing. So it's like I had to really own my voice. And what people don't understand about me is I am a very shy person on social media because that's a different world, right? So
right,
it's like in person I'm not shy at all. I can talk to a homeless man. It don't matter who you are. I can talk to you. You see how we met? I can talk to
right,
anybody. But when it's social media, it's a different world. And so God was telling me, well, you already went into the fire. It's nothing more they can do to you. And so He had to prepare me for putting myself back out there again. And so I pushed myself every day to try to help somebody by telling my story.
And I know you said you didn't want to be offensive to his family by
I,
being,
I still don't.
able to tell your story. I can imagine. I can
I
imagine.
still don't.
Um,
And the thing with them is, it's like, I pray for them. I pray for them all the time. I pray for them. I've been praying for them for years. But I get so angry because I'm human. But when they be like, "Oh, shut up and let him rest in peace," I didn't rest for years. I didn't rest for 12 years. I was drinking, trying to drink it away. I was trying to party it away. I'm trying to, self medicate it away because, mind you, I'm living with this memory. This thing is still in my head. I can't make it go away. And
right,
so for 12 years, I respected y'all. For 12 years, I was silent. 12 years, I felt like my voice, it didn't matter.
right,
So now that I am finding my voice, I will not ever let nobody take that away from me because I did, like, again, I'm going to say it again. I did not really start releasing until I started talking, and I'm not going to let nobody take that away from me ever again.
right.
I'm
And
not
your
going.
words matter. Your voice matters.
Yes, and it's mattering all over the world. I have been to Florida. I have been to New York. I have been on platforms as far as Vegas, telling my story because God got so much more for me to do.
Yeah. And as you're inking new chapters, how was it for you to move on and to love again and to recognize a different level of love, to love yourself, to love your children, to love your peace to allow a piece of you to now let someone else in, if that's even a case.
Yes, I'm currently married now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it started with me forgiving myself. For a long time, I wouldn't forgive myself. For a long time, I felt like I was carrying blood on my hands,
Mm,
and like blood that nobody could see. And so for a long time I wouldn't forgive myself. I didn't feel worthy of a celebrating a Mother's Day. I didn't feel worthy of, being a part. For a long time I was in a dark place. It was dark for me. I just wanted to be in a room with music and no sunshine. I wouldn't go nowhere. I was paranoid. I thought people was gonna kill me. I thought death was around the corner. And
mm.
after I forgave myself, because I always been like a hopeless romantic. I always felt like I deserved love, you know. And so I experienced some relationships after the fact, but this marriage that I'm in now, I can truly say, I found my person. I
That's
really did. He
a
is
blessing.
amazing. I
Yeah,
found my person.
that is a blessing indeed. And how are the kids?
So the oldest, when I finally sat down with them and talked to them about how their father passed away, they forgave me. And after that, I didn't really care no more about what people thought. Because if they forgave me, and that was the hardest thing at the trial for me to do, I was okay with it. And so after that situation, I had three more kids. So I have five kids now, and I love my kids to death. They're growing. I just appreciate the fact that I'm alive and I'm free to see them grow and elevate and move forward. I give them as much knowledge as I can. I teach them all the things that I wish somebody would have taught me, and I talk to them about any and everything, whatever they ask for. I just tell them and talk to them.
Paige, I know that we often speak to the ladies, but if you were to talk to a man or to a woman right now that's on the other side of this, not going through it, but causing this turmoil, if you were to give them any level of transparency or any words of advice or a plea for compassion from them, what would that be?
I would tell them to go heal and go find out what it is in your childhood that has you acting the way you act. Go back to the root of the problem and try to get help, therapy, or whatever it might be. Because sometimes we could be the way we are and don't understand the way we are, or we could be holding on to childhood trauma or something our parents did us, and we could just like take it out on people. For example, being abandoned by your mother, you'll take that out on other women. Being abandoned by your father, you can take that out on your man. You'll never treat a man the way you're supposed to. To be your full self and your full capacity, you have to learn how to heal from what's holding you back. You have to not let your past hold you hostage. You have to heal and move forward. And once you do that, you can start loving yourself better, and then you can love somebody else more. Love yourself first before you love anybody else. You're not going to be ever able to give the love you need to give to somebody else if you don't love yourself. Like, as a woman, I can give so much to my kids, to my husband, to my house, but I'm no good for none of them if I don't take care of myself and love on myself. So go heal, go to the root, and love yourself so that you can love people around you. That's what I would say.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I'm
listen.
so grateful, that we crossed paths and that
Me
you're on
too.
this healing journey. I want you to think of this as an extension of your office. You mentioned earlier about October being the awareness month, but the conversation doesn't start here, it doesn't end here. And this is a safe space. I want everyone to feel warm, welcome, and invited whenever they get in the hot seat on the tan line. It's not to interrogate, it's not to shed a negative light. It's to allow people a platform to be able to speak their truth and their words, their heart, and hopefully be able to find others where they are, and those who need the message will find it and take what they need from that. You know what I'm saying? Because there is no perfect life, there is no perfect journey, and we're all just one split decision away from whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can always look back, hindsight 2020, or quarterback on a Monday morning for a Sunday night game, but life happens. But how do you pick up the pieces and move forward? How are we healing? So I thank you for that. And I know that you have the Paige Parkerson story part one with Guilty of Wanting to Be Loved. How can we find this book? How can we keep up with you and all of your movement and speaking engagements? Fill me in.
So, Guilty of Wanting to Be Loved, the Paige Parkerson story is available on Amazon. You can just type in the title and you can find it, or you can visit me on Facebook or TikTok. I love TikTok. You can visit me on TikTok or Facebook, and you can also find my videos of my story in a search engine on YouTube. Type in Paige Parkerson, PageParkerson. Guilty of Wanting to Be Loved sequel 2 will be dropping next year, so stay tuned for that. But right now, I'm working on getting my books inside the prison because I feel like since I'm telling the first book from being incarcerated in a standpoint, at the time, I feel like my book can also help the prisoners. But we're going to start at Bowman, but make our way around the world in the prisons so we can get the book inside of all the prisons in the world.
Absolutely. And feel free to use us as a springboard to help get that message out because we want people to be able to be loved, loving themselves, loving others, and to actually just lead people to resources.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate you so much. And I know you got more work to do. So I'm going to let you chase the sun or let the sun chase you. But either way, get after it. I love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. You heard me.
I love you more.